All right, is this everyone? Great. All right, nice to meet you both. My name is Nicholas Hunter. I'll be moderating your debate today. For these questions, you will have a maximum of 2 minutes to answer. No interruptions will be allowed. So if you interrupt, expect to get yelled at. There will be a total of 10 questions, and you will also have 1.5 minutes for a rebuttal and a response to a rebuttal if you so wish. Are you gentlemen? Do you gentlemen understand?
Yes.
Yes, I fully understand.
Perfect. Are you ready?
Absolutely.
Great. My
Yep.
first question is, we'll start with Mr. Williams here. What are your plans for schools and the general curriculum?
Well, schools have not changed in the United Kingdom. Its crucial framework of schools have not changed since the 1800s. And I believe that is disgraceful. Absolutely disgraceful. We are a modern Britain. We are a new Britain. We are entering a new path. I believe we should change the curriculum to better suit the modern needs. I believe the child should have more say in what they want to learn, what history or topics they want to endure, because it is scientifically proven that if the child has more say and they enjoy what they do, then they learn better. I believe the way forward in education is the child, because it will be the future generation who guide this country for its next path. And with schools and education in the UK and every country in the world is crucial. It's a framework of every country, I personally believe, because without education we can't read, we can't properly speak, and we just can't function without education. That's why we need to fully fund it. We need to make sure the teachers get the funding they need. We need to make sure everything is perfect, because this will set our children up for the future. And if elected as Prime Minister and party leader, I will ensure this happens. I will ensure our children get the future they deserve, and I will ensure our children get the deserved education they so desperately deserve. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Williams. Mr. Black, I will give you the same question. What are your plans for schools in the general curriculum?
Well, I'm gonna keep this very straightforward. My plan for schools is to modernize the curriculum to ensure that all students are prepared for the future. Under my tenure, I'll focus on strengthening science, technology, engineering, and mathematics education. I'll also promote literacy and incorporating thinking skills across all subjects. We will also prioritize teacher support, providing continuous professional development to ensure that they can deliver high quality education to our students. We must remember that our students are they're the next generation. They are the next leaders of this nation. So we must pave the way for them to be able to lead this nation, so that when we are older, we can live peacefully. So we must fund them with the correct. We must provide them with the correct education. Additionally, I will also work to reduce disparities in educational resources, ensuring that every child, regardless of their background, has access to the tools that they need to succeed. So we must provide everybody with with quality education and the quality materials that will be needed for everybody to succeed. I keep it quite straightforward, because we need to do this now, because come 5-10 years, a lot of people won't be able to get the same education, because we won't be having the same people, because the people that we have right now, they may be lacking a good education. So if we fail to provide that quality education in 5 to 10 years time, when these students who are coming out of the curriculum, they may not be able to think it through, so that they can implement policies that will continue to help the next generation, to help the betterment of the United Kingdom, and to help our people.
All right, Mr. Black, your time is up. Mr. Williams, before we move on to the next question, do you have a rebuttal?
I do have a rebuttal to Mr. Black. I believe he does raise some very strong points here. I believe the advancement of science and technology, the advancement of literature, the advancement of all subjects is vitally important. I agree with him there. And I also agree that we must also in school ensure that the women of school, and equality to all students, and everyone should have the equal opportunity, because quite frankly, there is not enough women scientists. There are not enough female people who do not feel they can go and do sports, and we should encourage them as well. We should encourage equality in the education of our people, because quite frankly, if we do this, it will make everyone a better person. We want very fair, we want very educated, we want very smart people coming out of our schools, and we need to include equality while giving them a range of subjects like literature. I believe we should be doing more literature, more English. I believe that is a vital skill. I also believe that students should be able to have the opportunity to study maths and English until the age of 18. I believe that is a brilliant idea. I think the maths and English in the UK, especially the maths, we are not up to standard.
Mr. Williams, your time has ended. You're perfectly fine. Mr. Black, do you have a response to Mr. Williams' rebuttal?
Well, I do not.
Okay. Then we shall move on to the next question. We'll start with you, Mr. Black. how will you support the growing population of some of our cities?
Well, as we know, statistics show us that there is an increasing number of elderly in our community. So I plan. My plan is to increase elderly homes and increase benefits for the elderly, not just for the elderly who served in our military, but all elderly who have helped the nation massively from labor, working. So yeah, I believe if in the cities we can implement a plan that will not only provide service homes for elderlies. We will also provide them with grants, monthly grants that will help them sustain a good few months of their lives. So yeah, we will base it. We will cut their taxes so that they do not have to pay extra taxes because they are elderly and most of them are retired. So there is no source of income, so they shouldn't be paying any taxes. So I strongly believe and do not support for taxes for the elderly, and that's something we will eradicate and abolish as soon as I enter office. So I want to know if sorry. So we will. My plan is to eradicate taxes for the elderly, to implement more service homes for the elderly, and to provide them with grants. So yeah, that's all I have to say.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Black. Mr. Williams, before we ask you the same question, do you have a rebuttal to Mr. Black's statement?
Yes, I just have a few words. Not to point this out to Mr. Black, though the question was directly towards the population increase, not just the elderly. I believe they were very strong points, and I fully agree. Personally, I agree we should eradicate pension tax. The generation was the backbone of Britain, what made Britain today, and we should not be expecting them to pay tax on their pension because they have paid the tax all through their life. They're paid national insurance, income tax. They're paid that tax all their lives. They've worked hard, made Britain what it is today, and they shouldn't be paying this. So I agree. If I was to be in power, no taxes for the elderly, and that is my rebuttal. Thank you, Mr. Hunter.
Of course. All right. Now, to ask you that question, Mr. Williams, how will you support the growing population of some of our cities?
The growing population in the United Kingdom it's gone out of control. It is growing at a rate that is similar to what we saw in the 1970s, and it will continue to grow. By I believe by 2020, 2030, we will reach a population of 71 million. Now that is massive. The UK needs to upgrade. We need to support town growth. We need to build more houses. We need to build, I believe, every 2 years to reach the housing demand we are at. We need to build 1 million homes every 3 years. It is ambitious, it is mad, but it is true, and someone needs to say that. 1 million homes every 3 years, and that's what I will do. Now, to support that, I will upgrade motorway infrastructure. The motorways, they provide Britain services and everything. We need to upgrade that. But not only that, we need to be making a greener Britain. We need to be doing that. That's why we need to be focusing on creating core transport links to these extra large cities which are going to be constructed with new housing developments and that. That's why I believe we should redo for HS2 and commit to that. Also other HS projects, high-speed rail will be the future. We need to do that. We need to be planning Britain's infrastructure for the future to help support these towns and city growths. We also need to be making massive thing because it will only get bigger. So we need to be rethinking the green belt to support these big towns and cities. We need to be rethinking the whole concept of infrastructure, the whole concept of housing, And how will we keep this under control? We will keep housing under control and the prices, because they will rise if this keeps on. But we need to stop them rising. We will stop these house prices. We will create affordable homes in these new cities, allow the working class people to have the homes they deserve. Because if it wasn't for working class people, Britain would not be what
Thank
it
you,
is.
Mr. Williams. Your time has expired. Before we continue on, Mr. Black, do you have a rebuttal to Mr. Williams' statement?
I do have a rebuttal. So I strongly believe with what Mr. Williams has stated here, but the plan for 1 million homes every year, that is something that we cannot project even at this state right now, because we haven't even seen a budget. So if we were to implement 1 million homes this fiscal year, we aren't quite sure how that will do. We don't know if it will be put into a plus or a minus, because we don't know what our economic stats are right now. So we really need to think at what we're going to do based off what we have right now. Because if we're in the negatives right now, we need to find a way to get back into the positives. And quite frankly, if we build 1 million homes a year up until 2030, we will have what? 30 times 1. Sorry. We'll have
Mr.
no, sorry. We'll have 10.
May I just clarify one thing to Mr. Black? I'm very sorry for interrupting, Mr. Black, but I just feel I should strongly make my point across. I did not say 1 million homes every year. I said 1 million homes every 3 years. 3 years. I just wanted to make it clear. Very sorry. Thank you.
Mr. Williams, and Mr. Black, Mr. Williams, I will have to warn you for that interruption. You do have the chance to respond to a rebuttal, so please, in the next instance, please save your correction for your response. Thank you. Mr. Black, you will have 10 seconds extra.
Okay, so if we were to build 1 million homes every year, every 3 years, sorry, we will be building at least 250. No, we would be building 250,000 homes per year on average. So we need to find a way on how we can do this conservatively, so that we are not only in the we're taken out of debt and put back into pluses. Because if we're building 1 million homes a year, think of it, we need to find the buyers for the homes. So we can't just implement projects that we aren't fully knowledge about, because 1 million homes a year.
Your time has expired. Very sorry. Before we continue, Mr. Williams, do you have a response to Mr. Black's rebuttal?
I do have a response. Thank you. Just to clarify again, I clearly stated 1 million homes every 3 years, which is equivalent to about 320,000 homes a year. That is not a hard accomplishment. I believe we have the budget and the resources in the treasury. If it is a case where we need to borrow some money, I believe it is better to do that. We must support our people. We must support our people. And if we do not support our people, then, quite frankly, then what's the point of having this money? We need to put the money in the right place, and that's what we will do. And I believe housing will be the right place to spend our money. Now, how will we do 320,000 homes a year? Well, I'll tell you how we'll do it. We will implement a housing committee to make sure those targets are hit. We will speak to reliable housing companies which are trusted. We will do contracts, and we will make sure that target is hit. And if it's not hit, then we will have punishments. And we will, if 1 year we build 300,000 homes, then the next year we will build more homes to subsidize that. We will do this, and I know, and I have full confidence in myself that I can deliver on these promises. Or today, I would not say that. Thank you.
All right. Well, right before your time expired, Mr. Williams, we shall now move on to the next question. We will start with Mr. Williams. What is your plan to recover from the London bombings earlier this week?
I'd just like to firstly make a statement to say that I send my deepest condolences to the families which were affected by this great tragedy. It should have never have happened, and I send my deepest condolences to them. Firstly, this was a terrorist attack, an attack on Britain. This should have never have happened, but I would like to assure the public quickly that this is a very small amount of people, so I believe that you're safe. You should not be worried by these attacks, though we should make preventions to stop them. I will personally pledge, if made party leader and PM, to increase the amount of anti-terrorist police force. I will increase that, and I will give them more power to act on these terrorist organisations. I will also be increasing the national threat level to severe. I believe this is a necessary case. I don't believe the public should be worried, but I believe we should be on high alert for these attacks in the future. Though if I believe that they need to come down, then of course we will bring it down. I will also be making sure that we have more police officers in London and all across the country to keep an eye out. And just keep an eye out and make our citizens safe. Make them feel if they want to walk down the street, they have the safety to walk down the street. I will strongly advocate to that. I'll also be opening new terrorist organisation hotlines. So if someone sees something suspicious, they have a number to call, and they call it, and they know. And if something's suspicious, we will act on that. We will make framework to stop these terrorist actions happening, to make sure our citizens are safe in the future. Thank you.
Sorry, I was muted. Thank you for that statement, Mr. Williams. Mr. Black, do you have a rebuttal for Mr. Williams' statement?
No, I do not.
Okay, then I will ask you the same question. Mr. Black, what is your plan to recover from the London bombings earlier this week?
Well, I do send my deep condolences to all the families that lost members in the London bombings. This was a clear terrorist attack. So I am already making a bill that will improve national security and emergency response for a long-term period. So I will work on this more as soon as I get into office, because my plan is to focus on immediate recovery and long-term resilience. We will provide as soon as I'm elected, we will provide comprehensive support to the victims and their families, including medical care, financial assistance, and mental health services. We will also increase security across the nation with funding for counterterrorism and intelligence operations. We will also work closely with local authorities to restore and rebuild the affected areas, ensuring that London not only recovers but becomes stronger and more secure against future threats. Because if we cannot secure these cities that are essential to our nation, we are letting our heart open, as I should say, because we need to think about it carefully. If we do not provide our police with enough funding that will help them, we won't make it anywhere. Because I know Great Britain is a great nation that was founded by some of the greatest men known in history. So I bet if they were to come back today, they would want to see an established democracy which would have secure elections, secure police, and secure cities. They founded these cities. If we were to talk about our forefathers, if they were to come and see what we've done, and if they were to come and see what has happened, they would be disappointed, because we need to increase.
Thank you, Mr. Black. Your time has expired.
Police department. Thank you.
Of course. Mr. Williams, do you have a rebuttal to Mr. Black's statement?
I do. I do have a response to Mr. Black's statement. I believe that it is crucial that we absolutely do provide more funding to the police, and we do provide more funding to that. Though we also must make sure, and we must keep an eye on the terrorist organizations that all across the world. We also, I believe, we should tighten security on countries of high terrorism threats. I will not say those countries. I will tighten the borders of Britain on those countries which I believe are a threat. And overall, we will stop this, and we will take acts, and we will do action. And I can give you my promise, I will always put nation first on these issues, never party. I give you that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Mr. Black, do you have a response to Mr. Williams' rebuttal before we move on? Mr. Black?
Oh, my mic was not muted. I do not have a response to the rebuttal.
Okay, thank you. Then we will start with Mr. Williams. How will you combat the ongoing heat wave?
Well, I can't combat the weather, obviously. That is Mother Nature. Though I can combat how to manage it better. But we must, for the heat wave, provide adequate instructions for our people. We also must, create further, this is going to be more of a problem in the future. And that's quite frankly true. There is global warming, temperature will rise, and this will be a more frequent event. This is why we must set out a clear list of plans how to deal with such of these extreme events. We need to create also in education, we need to create a framework to teach younger people how to deal. Also the elderly, we must help the elderly during these times. We must create a care package for the elderly which struggle with these hot heat waves. Also, we must also create water fountains in key public areas. We need to keep on doing this because we need to make sure our citizens are not dehydrated, they're well, they're not ill, because it is not good if we have a sick population. It is not. And we must create further action towards the heat waves events, and we also must think of water supply, because during these times our water supply is under a lot of strain. There's not so much rain, there's high demand for water. That's why we must set out a plan as a government as well to make sure that water is used to its fullest capacity. We must also create plans and acts for that, which is fair, very fair to the British public and also necessary.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Your time has expired. Mr. Black, before we ask you the same question, do you have a rebuttal?
No, I do not.
Okay, then we will ask you the same question. How will you combat the ongoing heat wave?
Well, I personally believe to combat the heat wave, as soon as I am elected, I'll prioritize the protection of vulnerable populations by ensuring access to cooling centers and emergency medical services, so that when heat waves like this come back, our citizens are not suffering from any medical diseases, and they are able to reach out to centers where they will provide cool air so that they do not have to sweat. And we will also distribute resources like water and provide public health guidance to for the risks of health-related illnesses. So, because we must inform our people on what we're doing, because if we can't inform the people, we are doing this as a one-man job. We need to have two people doing the same job. So that means we indicate and they follow. So that's what I have to say about that. I will also focus on infrastructure improvements that will help cities better withstand extreme temperatures, such as increasing green spaces and integrating cooling technologies. Additionally, I'll advance our climate change initiatives by accelerating the transition to renewable energy and reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Because greenhouse gases do not only affect our climate, they are also a big impact to climate change. So, if we can reduce greenhouse gas, well, it will help our nation massively. We also need to prioritize cooling centers, as I mentioned before, and water conservation, because during heat waves like this, we will need the resources, because as soon as strikes like this could happen, they couldn't just last a few weeks, a week, they could last a few weeks, they could last a few months. We never know.
Thank you,
aren't
Mr.
prepared.
Black. Your time has expired. Before we move on to the next question, Mr. Williams, do you have a rebuttal?
I do have a rebuttal. As a response to Mr. Black, I missed this out, but I will respond to it. I believe it's vitally important that we create nice green areas for people to cool down and relax. I believe in key areas we should increase the green space and, in fact, create a target. I believe that we should at least allocate 40% of green space in all cities. It is ambitious, but I believe we need to take this step to create our citizens a more greener future. We should all, and to combat the climate change, the United Kingdom, I believe, is one of the best G7 countries which is dealing with climate change. Our climate emissions have decreased nearly every year since the 1990s. We are at 1880s level. This is brilliant, though we must continue this trajectory. We must reduce it more. This is why I believe we should stick to the UK's plan on changing, getting rid of the diesel and petrol cars by 2035. I believe this is good by creating more charging points and everything, and infrastructure to support these renewable cars and renewable energy. And we will also use.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Your time has expired. Before we move on to the next question, Mr. Black, do you have a response to Mr. Williams' rebuttal?
Yes, I do have a response to Mr. Williams' rebuttal. I personally do not support for us to stop people having gas and diesel cars, because one, those are more reliable because they can last long distances, and we can't be having electric cars not only because they don't last long distances, they will also start a lot of infrastructure damages to our motorways, because many cars will be crashing from running out of charge. Because we need to think of it like this: these cars do not last as long as a diesel and petrol car does last. We need to think of it. The diesel and petrol cars are cheaper. Electric cars are more expensive, and you do have to pay for electricity. Electricity is more expensive than diesel and petrol right now. And when I get into office, I will make sure that we lower the price of diesel and petrol, so that these diesel and petrol cars can get they can fuel the cars much easier, so that we do not have people struggling to afford to drive around in our cities. Because we really need to think of it like this: are we going to take the risk and drive for, let's say, 30 minutes and let's say an hour, and have the risk of running out of charge? Or are we going to take no risk and driving for 1 hour and having enough fuel for the entire ride? We really need to think of it like that. So us removing diesel and petrol cars
Thank you, Mr.
would
Black.
not
Your
be
time
safe.
has expired. We shall now move on to the next question. We'll start with you, Mr. Black. How can you decongest the streets of London?
Okay, this goes back to the current population rising population, because we really need to think of it like that. So, well, I personally believe to decongest the streets of London, I will, as soon as I'm elected, I will implement uh, an approach that includes expanding public transportation options. So we will have more metros, subways, um, public city buses. We'll have more infrastructure for people to cycling infrastructure. We'll have more areas for people to drive in, and we'll encourage. Uh, we will encourage the use of. I will not support a ban for diesel and power cars, but I will encourage the use of it to A and B easily and quickly. But does that mean we will make a mandate that will eradicate diesel and power cars come 2030? We will not. We will also explore the introduction of congestion charges in particularly crowded areas, and incentives that the use of carpooling and ride-sharing services. By making alternatives to driving more accessible and appealing, we can reduce traffic and improve air quality in the capital. So, all in all, I believe in more safer cities, because my plan clearly does keep our cities safer by keeping people together. So it is more communitarian, so that we have a closer community, and we also have our safe cities, and we will also have streets that will not be overflowed with people. So I really have a plan that will work if we do get me elected, and whoever is my deputy prime minister, we will both execute this plan.
Thank you,
Success.
Mr. Black. Your time has expired. Now, I have been given notice by one of our participants, Mr. Williams, that he is running out of time to participate in this debate. We are only halfway through our questions, so we will reduce the time you have to answer these questions to 1 minute and 30 seconds, and your time for a rebuttal to 1 minute. You will no longer be able to give a response for a rebuttal in order to save time. Do you both understand these new rules?
Yes,
I do understand.
Great, thank you. Now, we will ask you, Mr. Williams, do you have a rebuttal for Mr. Black's statement?
I do not have a rebuttal from Mr. Black's statement.
Okay, then we will ask you the same question. How can you decongest the streets of London?
Well, how can the streets of London are ancient designed? They were designed hundreds and hundreds of years ago. So it's obviously a massive problem. We obviously need to increase the transport networks around the city to stop people using cars. Also, we should be using campaigns to influence people to stop using cars. Think before you drive, maybe. We could do that, some campaign like that. Also need to be building, we could build more train networks, upgrade the London bus network, and generally, maybe we need to stop so many cars, because we are at a threshold. We cannot build any roads right through. We could say we could build another motorway ring road around London, but that's just impossible nearly. It's too built up around London. It's too urban. Cannot build another one. We could upgrade the M25 possibly, but I don't believe that will solve the problem. We need to improve the transport networks. I believe we are going to build more tube lines around London to the most populated areas, and the areas which need maybe infrastructure upgrades, more buses, and we will upgrade the buses to make them more eco, and we will take these.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Your time has expired. Mr. Black, do you have a rebuttal to Mr. Williams' statement?
I do not.
Perfect. Now, we are being joined by Mr. Garfield. He will be moderating the next 5 questions.
Alright, so for the next question, I'd like to ask, what is your plan on how to fix London's decaying infrastructure and like public transportation? Mr. Black, you can go ahead.
Okay. Well, as soon as I get into office, we will implement infrastructure plans with knowledgeable and trustworthy companies that are known for doing this type of work. We will do surveys that will with motorists specifically, so that we can know their opinion on what they believe this our project will be. We will not. We'll also increase the funding for infrastructure. We will. I will have talks with the cabinet, and I will have talks with with the House of Commons and the House of Lords, that we can get legislation and acts that will help the nation's roads. We will also increase our roads as soon as we get more roads implemented. As soon as I get into office, I plan on working with the House of Commons so that we can get an infrastructure bill that will help our roads for at least the next 25 years, if not longer. We will also, as soon as we're done with infrastructure on the road, we will increase the number of routes so that we have more accessible roads whilst we're doing maintenance on the roads that we have right now. So we will not shut down roads, but we will expand and
Alright,
maintain the current
Mr.
ones
Black,
that we have. Thank
your
you.
time is expired. Mr. Williams, do you have a rebuttal for that?
No, I do not.
Alright, so now Mr. Williams, we'll ask you the same question. How do you plan on fixing London's decaying infrastructure and transit network?
London has an extremely good transport network, and that's why we should invest in it to keep it an excellent transport network. We need to be upgrading the services of the tube. The tube, some of it is outdated, some of it has not been done for nearly 70 years, and we must upgrade it. If we are going to have a rising population in London, we must adapt to this rising population by planning ahead, by planning new transport networks for the foreseeable future for the next 100 years. I believe we should be planning for the next 100 years in London, because London is at a stage now where it is becoming quite overcrowded and cramped, and transport network is quite frankly struggling, and it's been displaying warning lights which have been ignored for years, and we can't ignore it anymore because it will just simply get worse. So we need to be upgrading the main roads into London. We need to be creating a London road plan, because we can reduce the amount of cars. There will still be a lot of cars. I mean, London's population is, and the outer boroughs is 10 million. 10 million people, maybe 5 million cars or something. We need to be making a clear plan to creating London's road infrastructure going into the city centre and for work and rush hours, and we need to be creating plans for that. So thank you.
Alright, is that all?
Yes.
Alright, Mr. Black, do you have a rebuttal for that statement?
I do not.
Alright, so now we will move on to the next question. How are people to use regional mass transit rather than cars? Mr. Black, you may speak.
Okay. So my plan to encourage greater use of regional mass transit, rather than cars, we will begin investing in making these systems more efficient, reliable, and accessible. This includes modernizing infrastructure, increasing service frequency, and ensuring that all transit options are affordable for all people. I will also promote the integration of different modes of transport, such as buses, trains, and bicycles, to create a seamless and convenient travel experience for the people of the United Kingdom. Public awareness campaigns will also be launched to highlight the environmental and economic benefits of using mass transit over cars, because when we use mass transit over cars, we are not only producing less amount of carbon dioxide that with and other gases that which affect climate change, which goes back to our heat wave, which I come back to say I do not support a diesel ban, but I support the encouragement of electric vehicles. So we really need to think of it. We must compromise. So if we can get people using buses and trains and metro and bicycles instead of using cars, which are petrol based, we can balance it out, because the ban of diesel cars and the mandate for electric cars is seriously not needed, because plans like this will get us far. So we really need to think about it when we're coming down to the negotiation table, because these are the plans that will help our transportation sector and our infrastructure, because we really need to think about it. What are we gonna do for the British people? That's all I have to say.
Mr. Williams, do you have a rebuttal statement you'd like to say?
No, thank you.
All right. So our next question. Actually, no, wait, no. We'd like to ask you the same question. How can you improve sorry, give me 1 second.
So, alright, no problem. Take your time.
How can you get more people to use regional mass transit rather than cars?
Well, firstly, we need to bring down ticket prices. Regional transport can be more expensive than cars. We need to inform the public that we are going to make regional transport cheaper, but we must do it in an economically conservative way, where we can maintain the infrastructure and make a small profit to upgrade the infrastructure in the future, while creating fair and responsible ticket prices for people. We should also create many media campaigns to tell people the effects of using your car to the environment and how it can damage it. Also, we need to encourage people that it may be faster to travel on rail transport. We should make it easier for people to go straight to rail transport, upgrade the transport companies' websites to order tickets online, and for them to have an easy and quick transport, just like going on a car. I believe that will encourage people to go on rail transport. We should also encourage people that it is a good thing to do, to go on rail. You're supporting the environment, the people, supporting everyone. It's almost like in it together. And I believe that is a way we can create people to get on transport. Quick rail services, no delays, cheap rail transport, and a good educational.
Alright, Mr. Williams, your time has expired. Mr. Black, do you have a rebuttal for that statement?
I do have a rebuttal.
Alright, go ahead, you may speak.
I just want to keep it nice and short, because I personally disagree on the use of media campaigns for telling people about car emission, how much gas comes out from cars, because not only does that make people put them in the state where they feel ashamed because they can't afford an electric car that the government is pushing them to get. They're also being put in the state of jealousy for all the people who do have an electric car. So I want to know, since the social media and the public, the media, it's all being publicized. It's being publicized by the people and everybody. At least 9 out of 10 people in the United Kingdom know what's going on. I don't think if we put out media campaigns for the ban, not for the ban, but for letting people know the strength of gas from cars, it's not going to
All right,
help people
Mr. Black,
because they will be very ignorant people.
time has expired. All right, so now we will move on to the next question. How can you fix the current economical decline? Mr. Black, you may speak.
Okay, so this is a very good question. I thank you. Thank you that you've asked me this question because the current state of the United Kingdom is not it's not in a good state. The former Prime Minister Thornfield has not left us in a good state. As soon as I'm elected, we will have to fix this current economic decline. Fixing the current economic decline will require a comprehensive plan focused on growth, stability, and innovation. I will implement policies that will not only support small businesses, they will encourage investment and they will stimulate job creation across all sectors. We will also prioritize infrastructure projects that create jobs and improve productivity. We will also ensure long-term stability. I will work alongside the House of Commons on reducing the national debt and implementing tax reforms that are fair and conducive to economic growth. In addition, I will also invest in education and training to prepare our workforce for the job of tomorrow, ensuring that our economy remains competitive on the global stage. We must keep our stance alive internationally and nationally because not only are we are in a race with the United States of America, and we must recognize that now because before it's too late. We must become the Great Britain that did colonize America, that did rule parts of
All right,
France,
Mr.
and
Black,
we remember that.
your time has expired. Mr. Williams, I'd like to ask if you have a rebuttal for that statement.
I do have a rebuttal for that statement.
Please go ahead.
Mr. Black, I would like to make it abundantly clear. This is the United Kingdom's economy. This is people's jobs, people's earnings, the whole country's business. We are not in a fight with the United States over our economy. We do not work with the United States. Then we will simply not have an economy. We need to work with trade. We need to work with the businesses, the hard-working people which grow the economy. We also need to make the UK a more friendly place. And you know, I just don't believe that fighting with other countries for economics progress is not the way. I understand Mr. Thornfield has created a bad economic situation, but there's other ways to do that. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Black, do you have a rebuttal for that statement?
Do have a response to his rebuttal. Well, I did quite clearly state that we are not fighting. We are trying to assert our dominance, which the United States of America, which was once colonized by the United Kingdom, is becoming economically much better than us, and we can't let that as a sign. We must know that as a sign that we are slacking off. And I don't know where and what I have not done for this nation to try and implement a more stable economy. I've implemented National Fiscal and Responsibility Act, which was passed, and I implemented the Veterans Tax Cut, which was not passed, which I am actually quite disappointed about because it was only not passed because the budget wasn't passed and wasn't submitted till this day. The budget has not been submitted, so I still believe that bill would have helped veterans massively and would have helped our elderly massively, and it would have helped our economy massively, which I believe not only would keep us in a bigger position to win, but it would also keep us in a position of where we would be at the top of the table. We would be leading meetings, people would be coming to us, and we wouldn't be going to people. That's all I have
All right,
to say.
Mr. Black, your time has expired. Mr. Mr. Williams, do you have